Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and start. I think Marcy's the only one that wasn't in on the original call. So
I did watch the webinar that was archived.
Great. And
so I am in on part of it. Are you doing this just strictly phone, or is there a UGMA session on there?
There is a UGMA session, Marcy.
Okay. I tried to get in, and I just didn't get. I'm just trying to make sure I get to the right place here.
Sure, no problem.
Sorry, guys.
Nope, that's okay. So, anybody have any questions or comments that they didn't get answered the first call?
I do have one question. It has to do with some money part of it, and I think that you guys went over quite a bit of that. My only comment was the fact that hopefully if we do talk about the money at that part, that it's whatever gets us the biggest bang for the buck, as opposed to the most people, as opposed to one or two people here and there, bringing in people to go to conference, things like that, if we can use it for that part of it. But that was my only comment I had on it. And if you've already answered it within the other one and I didn't hear it, I apologize.
Nope, actually we really haven't decided anything about the money. The one thing that I think we really are going to have to deal with regarding the money is a bylaws change, and that's because our bylaws say that if the section is dissolved, upon the dissolution of the section, any remaining section funds will be credited to the Wyoming Library Association. Which, I mean, if that's how we want to do it, that's fine. But if we want to be specific about what those funds are going to go to, then we probably need to deal with the bylaws change so that we can have them go specifically how we want. But as far as what we're going to do with the money, really nothing has been done. And we don't have to decide that right now. We can decide it at annual conference, or we don't even really have to make a decision then. Jamie, what was what's your timeline that you really would like to know if people have a choice?
Yeah, at the annual conference on Thursday afternoon, that would be September 30th, that's the actual business meeting of the conference. That will be where we vote for the bylaws change. And if those bylaws go into effect, and I hope that they do, then at the end of the conference, the sections will cease to exist. So, and then Friday morning, after we have already voted on the bylaws changes, that's when your section meeting is. And so that would be the time when you can really decide where you want your money to go. If no decision is made on that Friday morning during the conference, then the executive board would really like a decision made by the end of the year, really. But we just want to make sure that you all are happy with where you want your money to go. The general fund of WLA does not want your money. Our position is if you don't decide where your money goes, then we will put it in a pool or a reserve account from which all new interest groups can draw on or can request money from. So who knows what interest group will be created. I have a list here of interest groups that have been talked about. But if something new pops up and they decide that they want to bring in a speaker or need money for such and such, then they can draw out of that pool. But none of the section funds from any section will go back into the general budget. We don't want it. And to mention something that Trish said before, whenever we make these bylaws changes, the actual motion to make the bylaws changes will include some language that will allow you not to have to change your section bylaws. We will say something to the effect of, if these bylaws go into effect, that every section will get to choose where their current section funds go to. And then that way you can go ahead and make your bylaws changes if you want to, but as part of the actual motion to pass the overall WLA bylaws changes, we're going to try and protect the section so that if you didn't give 30 days notice on the change or who knows what, we're still going to let you put your money where you want it.
Okay.
Okay, that's good to know, Jamie. Right now we have about $2,283. That was the last number that I got from Laura. I would suspect that by the time of conference, we may have 2,500. I think it probably won't be more than that. I can't see people signing up for a section when they know they're going to be going away. But so that's the figure we have to work with, and I don't see any expenses coming along the way, either for conference or in the meantime. So that's probably what we're going to have to try and decide what we want to do with.
I do have a question, Jamie, about the interest groups. When we do, I know you have to have a certain amount of people. Are there dues that will be, how will they be funded?
Sure.
Are there dues that will go to the interest groups, or is it just going to be general WLA dues that get pointed towards those groups? I can't remember.
It'll be a little of both, actually. Every interest group that is created, and it does take just only 5 members to form an interest group, just 5. That interest group can decide if they want to charge a participation fee, kind of like the ParaPro section does now, so $10, $5 a year, whatever, within, as long as it's reasonable. And then WLA will be setting up a reserve account that the president-elect, and past president can authorize monies out of to give to interest groups if they decide to have like a spring section meeting, or not a section meeting, a spring meeting or a summer meeting, or just host an event and they need some costs for that. So WLA will be picking up part of those costs, but of course the interest groups themselves can charge.
Thank you.
One of the things I didn't quite see in there, and I didn't look that close, but was how is conference going to be planned now?
That's a great question, Marcy. The top 7, or the 7 interest groups that have the most members will all be required to put someone on the conference program planning committee, and that's just the committee that plans the actual programs for the conference. And any other group that is around that doesn't have the most people, not the top 7, is always welcome to submit a program planning form.
Okay.
And while I'm thinking about it, let me give you a list of some of the interest groups that are or will be formed as we move forward. These are folks that have already talked to me, and I think they may even have their 5 people. There will be a group of folks who deal with the internet and web pages in libraries, the IT folks in libraries. There will be a library instruction interest group that focuses on the theory of teaching patrons how to use library resources. There will be a teacher librarian interest group, and honestly, that's just the school section with a new name, Teacher Librarians. There will be a library support staff certification program interest group, which will be made up of anybody who's interested in that program or participants of that program as a way to work together towards a common goal, maybe even take some of those classes together and just work through that program. The children and young adults section will go into an interest group, and I don't know what their new name will be. And then there will also be a new library technologies interest group that will exist to, find new technologies for libraries and maybe do a webinar or 2 every year and just say, hey, this is a cool thing I found and you might want to use it in your library.
Any other questions?
No, I'm cool with that. So we can't actually vote on anything until we go to conference, correct?
We could do it through email.
Trish, how do you feel about email? I mean, I know when I was chair, it was really difficult to get people to respond. Do you think that would be better to wait or to try the email?
what do we have to have for a quorum?
Ooh.
This is Jamie, and my suggestion to you for today is to maybe brainstorm a few places that you might want your money to go, and then have Trish send out an email or some other notification prior to the annual conference saying these are the suggestions or ideas that people have for our money, so that whenever you show up for your hour-long interest group meeting, there's already something on the table.
Quorum is 50% of the members of the section registering for the annual meeting. So when you read the bylaws, that's assuming that we're not going to be doing voting outside of annual meeting. Because that's the only reference to quorum.
That's for the new bylaws, though, correct?
No, that's according to our section bylaws.
Okay, all right.
So, if I hear that right, if these are voted out Thursday and we meet Friday, all these bylaws that are in place for the section are non-existent. Am I?
Yeah,
correct.
Correct.
We can do whatever the heck we want.
That's right. That's
Yep.
why we'll have special language as we make the motion to do the bylaws, so that you can do whatever it is you want. As librarians, we're often more process-oriented than we are outcomes-oriented, so we're going to try and make it a little more outcomes-oriented, so Friday morning you don't have to, do 10 motions to, just figure out where you want your money to go.
Right. And actually in our bylaws it does say that upon recommendation of the executive board, the section may be dissolved by action of the members of the Wyoming Library Association at an annual business meeting.
Okay.
So that part's all cut and dry.
Yeah, and I think because our group, look how few there are just on this phone conference.
Right.
It's hard to get a quorum, so I wonder if we could come up with ideas that still wait, because how are we ever going to get a quorum?
See, and that's why at annual it'll be easy. We just find out how many of our section registered for annual, and as long as 50% attend and vote at the section meeting, then we've already met that. So really what we need is just ideas on where to put the money, and if you guys have suggestions for interest groups. I think we should just have one big farewell bash at WLA in Casper.
Beer and binkies all around.
Yeah. What do you think?
You advertise that, you'd probably get a better turnout.
Free alcohol and food, they'll be there, yeah.
That's just what I was thinking, Gloria. I remember in the very, very early days of the section, we did breakfast meetings.
Yeah.
And we could just have mimosas and everything.
I think that sounds just lovely.
Who knows?
Early meetings that met in the bar.
You're right. And maybe if we advertise this ahead of time, we might even get some more money.
There you go.
Have more drinks? More drinks.
Offer for the keg.
When I look at this list of current interest groups, I think the Library Support Staff Certification Group is excellent, but then I feel, what if there are some that don't really want to take that track? What fits the public service sector? But I guess it'd be good to maybe just see what group wants.
Well, I think that even if someone goes for the certification, they're still going to want to continue the education through the some sort of a section group, whether it be straight through for that or straight through for just expanding your information. So I think that there's more than one way to do the paraprofessional section.
Yeah, I agree. My concern is, who do we get? Because here we are. There's how many of us?
Right.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's the interest group, What are we interested in? What are we interested in?
And then we're still fighting the same battles of, who's going to actually commit to doing things or who's actually going to do it instead of it falling back on the same shoulders all the time. I listened to the hesitation in the last meeting about you still had to have officers, and yet there was still nobody willing to stand up.
Well, because it's the same, kind of the same little bitty core group, and I know Trish and I have done this a couple of times, and I feel like at some point we should die or go away.
Exactly.
Well, and I think it's really unfair to both of you too that that you're pushed into it. So there's got to be another way.
And hopefully that's what's going to come out of the interest groups is, people will go where they really feel their needs can be met the best and that they will be active participants. And, I think one thing that really our section struggles with a lot is that many times these are not the people that get to come to conference, which may be part of a good thing of going to interest groups that could hold events outside of conference and get good attendance, and then you're also not competing with everything that's going on at conference to get people's support.
I kind of like, Trish, I envision it like your interlibrary loan workshop you had. You had
Correct.
a good number there. Those satellite training sessions throughout the year, I think people really want.
Right.
And that might be something that the para group can create an interest group for, is to just get some good plans to take it out to the state. And now, in the interest group, it's like you can even have it to create one training session, right, and then just let it go away. Is that kind of...
Absolutely.
Correct.
So maybe, we just kind of brainstorm maybe at fall conference, what does everyone want? Do they like the idea of going out somewhere like Casper, where everyone can fairly easily get to and have special training specific to their needs? That's how I see some of this money being spent, is taking it to them, taking it to the people that don't normally get a chance to get away.
Okay. And I think one of the big ideas behind the interest groups and them being less structured than a section is that they can be more fluid. So they're as long as there's a need for them to meet or address, then they're there, but then they can easily go away or evolve into something else without having to go through a bunch of bylaw changes and all that kind of stuff and having to have officers, and just the whole idea is to make it fluid and easy, or less structure.
Let us use our imagination for
Right.
what next.
And I think too that sometimes people are more willing to step forward and take an active part in something if they know, one, that it's not a big long-term commitment, such as if you become a current section officer, most of the time it can involve up to 3 years. Your year as chair-elect, then your year as chair, and then past chair. So that's a 3-year commitment. Sometimes that's very difficult for people to make that big of a commitment. And the other thing is, I think sometimes people are very intimidated when they think they have to deal with bylaws and Robert's Rules of Orders to conduct a meeting. That whole thing sometimes is intimidating.
Absolutely.
So maybe by having less structure, people will be more willing to step forward and say, I can do this, I feel passionate about this, and then they see that one little piece come to light and carry it through, and things move on.
I think it sounds wonderful. I think that this is a great move for the organization.
I agree. My other thought is, you never know unless you try something. And that's one of my favorite things is, you just try it. And you have to pick a point where you say, okay, we've planned this far, and now we pick a jumping off date, and we just do it, and then we deal with the fallout. And maybe that fallout involves evaluating it and saying, wow, that didn't work. Okay, so then you back up and punt again.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only way we learned how to move on.
You're right.
Huh.
My mom always told me you'll never get ahead if you don't take a chance.
That's true.
Well,
I think that any way that we can do this, I think, is great. I like the idea that, as Jamie said, that there's a blanket statement in there about the money, so that if us five don't agree on anything, we still have time on it.
Yep.
And so that's wonderful. And hopefully there's an end date so that it says, okay, look, if you don't do it by then, you're definitely not interested in,
Right, we're
to
thinking
go back into WLA.
Right, we're thinking it'll be December 31st, and again, if you don't decide, then that money will just go into that pot of money that any interest group can pull from. So it's not going away. It just, you're no longer in charge of it, and other folks will just have their chance at it.
That would make the most sense because WLA's on a calendar
Right.
year for dues and everything. So that would make the most sense, Jamie, to have it at the end of December. Yeah.
And it's logical to go back to the organization. I mean, that's why do we have the money to start with?
Right.
We are members of theirs, so why not give it back to that too? I mean, if you're not going to use it in some specific way.
Here's a couple thoughts for you. The public section, which has about 3 times the amount of money that you have.
Rub it in.
We met yesterday, and some of their thinking, and they haven't fully decided yet, but some of their discussion centered on the fact that they would fund, partially put some money into that reserve account that all interest groups can pull from because they're not sure where their members will end up under the new interest group, just the new structure. So they already want to fund part of that so that no matter where their folks land, they'll still have the ability to use some of their old money, I suppose is the right way.
I have a question, actually, with the Leadership Institute. It's going under WLA, correct?
Yes.
And is it going to be funded, or is it going to rely on extra funding?
We're hoping to fund it. The problem is we just haven't been in a financial place to actually fund it fully. So at the moment it is relying on donations.
Okay. What does fully funded mean basically in a year-end situation?
What an average year of the Wyoming Library Leadership Institute costs anywhere between $5,000 and $8,000. The way we've been doing it.
Okay. Thank you.
But it has been under discussion to figure out ways to make it a lot more cost-effective, and we're hoping that will be the case. What does the group here think about maybe donating a portion of the ParaPro money to the Leadership Institute, since it's something that would be kind of fitting for what the paras do and their goals? Any interest in that?
I'm definitely interested in that. I think it's a wonderful institute. It benefits everyone.
And paras especially, I think. Well, not especially, but really a good tool for paras. How's the rest of can we look at that a little? Not all.
I have one concern with that, and that is, what if the money isn't there for that institute to go on? Then what's going to happen to the money that's been earmarked for that? Have you thought of that, Jamie?
Well, right now I can't remember the numbers of. I think there's about $2,000 to $3,000 that they've already raised.
Okay.
And so anything more, and we'll be ready to actually do something with it. I know that the state library, as soon as some laws get changed in Washington, will be ready to support it again like we had for the first 6-7 years that it existed. We will definitely use some of our money to re-support that.
Okay.
And Jamie, didn't the public yesterday earmark that as one of their...
They did as well. They did as well.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, the public section also talked about taking some of their money, some of their $6,000, and putting it towards the Library Leadership Institute as well.
Oh, okay, awesome. Great.
Yeah, the other thought that you guys, another thought for you all, is perhaps you want to offer up some scholarships or just give some money to the Library Support Staff Certification interest group that we'll be forming as well.
And Nancy happens to be enrolled in that program. I don't know. Is anybody else on the call enrolled?
I'm not enrolled in it yet, but thinking seriously about it.
I'm not enrolled because it just looks really expensive if you take the classes, and the portfolio sounds so time-consuming. I don't know if I really want to do that.
I'm struggling with that too,
Yeah.
a little bit, especially right now. It's all, yeah.
I took a look at it, and I know for one of, because when they initially started this, I was very interested. And I'm not saying that I won't eventually maybe do it, but I have a couple of issues with it at the current time. And I know if you look at some of the, now I can't even think of the word. What are they called, Jamie? Competencies.
Competencies, yeah.
Okay, on one of them, they have courses, but what they failed to mention was that that one course, which is at a cost of $400, is only a third of what you need to meet that competency. So in order to meet that one competency, if you take all three of the parts of those courses to meet that competency, you're looking at about $1,200. So after I started looking at the cost associated with it, if you do not go the portfolio route, I was thinking, boy, why wouldn't you just go for an associate's in a library technician program? Because then you could build on that to something else. So I don't know, I'm having some reservations. And the other thing that kind of makes me have some reservations is now they've added a piece where you're going to have to be recertified every 4 years. And I think the cost for that is $150 and 32 contact hours. And I don't know that they've finished defining the contact hours. But to me, it's like, wow, they're really hitting us up for a lot of money when we're the lower paid ones in the whole profession anyway. And, you know, once you get your MLS, unless it's a state qualification, you really don't have to go and prove your contact hours and ask for recertification. So, sorry, that's just my little rant for today.
Interesting, Trish.
I think you brought up some valid points, and I think that we're all looking at it from that point of view going, now wait a minute, we get excited about this, and then where are we at? So I was actually glad to hear that.
Yeah, you know, it's almost like all of a sudden ALA's looking at us as money makers for them. But on a positive note with that program, they are offering subsidies. I don't know if you all saw the email that Jamie sent out earlier. And so if you're thinking of enrolling, if you enroll and are accepted by September 15th, you can then apply for a $200 subsidy, and they will award 55 of these to go toward $200 to go towards one of their approved classes, and you have to complete that course or class by April 1st, 2011. So there's a little bit of an incentive. You still have to purchase, if you're not already enrolled, you still have to do that, which is $350 or $325 if you're an ALA member. So there is a little bit of an incentive. Anybody have anything else? Because I really don't. I just wanted to hear if there were additional questions regarding the proposed changes for WLA. And it was an opportunity for people like Marcy, who did go in and listen to it, to ask questions if they had them. Hoping that this will expedite the length of the section meeting this fall. So, you know, what we should do is, like, the idea of proposing some money for the Leadership Institute is we should maybe try and draft some suggestions or whatever and send them out ahead of time so that people will already have some ideas, and maybe we could have some discussion at WLA, but get the whole process dealt with quickly. Personally, I would like to have it resolved when we leave Casper. I really don't want to think that we still have this one issue hanging out, even though we have till the end of the year. I mean, I'm assuming it would fall. Who's going to be responsible if that isn't resolved?
Oh, the plan will be if you don't resolve anything by the end of conference, that we're going to lean on Trish, and Trish will be in charge of it through the end of the year. So the current section
That's
leadership,
what I had a feeling of. So that's why I would like to get it done.
Well, and Trish, I think it's a really good idea to start the dialogue before then, because then the biggest attention you're going to get about this subject is now until conference.
Yeah.
Once conference is over and they walk away, it's going to be hard. So I agree it would be good to get some dialogue through an email loop now.
And it's so hard to get people to respond through email. I mean, really.
It would be easier to do it face-to-face than to try and get anybody to
But if we could give them a heads up, maybe that's where we need to go. Because basically, I can tell you what, when you send out an email, it's basically the same people that respond to that email that are on this call. It's the core group again.
Well, I guess that gives us a lot of power to decide what to do.
That's right.
Yep. But you know, the other thing is, we send out this email, and we're talking money here, and sometimes people get a little more involved when they have dollars invested.
Well, that's true.
So I will draft something and send it to you all with the thought that if you've come up with other suggestions or proposals of where you would like to channel the money, that you would add it, and then we could get it out to the whole group.
Okay, that sounds good.
And I would like to target having it out to the whole group by the end of August. And that would give them a whole month.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
I think it would be better if we came in with a plan than just trying to decide all of it at the meeting.
Yes.
I think they'll be stumbling around like we kind of are today.
Yes.
Much easier to have people agree to something that's already written as opposed to
Right.
creating it.
Yep.
And maybe you could suggest 3 possible plans, and then people could vote, like half and half and half. Half could go to the general pool, half could go to the Library Leadership Institute. That could be one potential
Okay.
suggestion.
Okay. We need 2 more.
Oh,
One
we don't
for
even need
third.
emails.
Or thirds.
For thirds and do it, the other third being the certification program.
Okay.
That was one of the options, since that was tossed out too.
Okay. Only need 1 more.
Maybe one could be that all the money would go into the general interest group fund.
Okay.
Or, well, how about one more?
Okay.
Like creating a really great workshop with that money. Some sort of really good nuts and bolts towards, Tara type, what do I want to say? A customer service workshop or a, conflict resolution. Something that we always are wanting.
Okay.
That's a lot of money.
We could have a good one.
I could have a good one.
With an open bar.
Pardon?
With an open bar, you could have a nice program with an open bar.
That goes back to the beer and binkies idea, right?
Yeah. Okay, so that's 4. I'm going to ask Jamie to work with me on drafting this up, since he's had a lot of experience on drafting changes and proposals here lately. and we'll get this out to you guys for your approval, and then we'll put it to the whole group.
Right. I think it's a great idea. That means whenever you show up for your section meeting, you have 4 options, and in the first 15 minutes, hopefully, you'll be able to pick an option, and then with the rest of your time, you can talk about interest groups that will be forming, or what you're interested in moving forward, or what have you. Drinking your mimosas.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So we vote and we're out of there in 15 minutes, and we can go have mimosas or Bloody Marys
That's great.
or red beer.
Where did it end for actually, if this doesn't pass, that you have to have a slate of officers? Where did that end with in the last conference, in the last call?
We have a slate for officers.
Okay.
And you are chair-elect. No, not really, Marcia.
I knew I stepped out at the wrong moment.
Gloria agreed to run for chair-elect should that happen, and I agreed to run for secretary.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that, we were, if we needed
covered.
that, we could do that too.
Yep. We were both feeling very confident that the changes will go through.
Didn't I sign up for something too?
You did. You signed up for chair-elect.
Chair-elect. Oh, okay. Knowing that I wouldn't be.
Exactly.
I think this is a great move that WLA is going to. So kudos, Jamie.
Oh, thank you. And it was part of a big group, 2-year group effort started by Cynthia Twing. So we're coming to the beginning times, I should say.
You're coming to the end of one part and starting the new
next,
part.
yep.
End of the beginning.
Yep.
That's great. That's great. So I guess the next step is we'll look for the emails and go from there.
Okay.
Cool.
Anybody have anything else? Okay. Jamie, do you have anything else?
I don't. The only thing I can say is to come to conference and be prepared to vote on Thursday afternoon, because we will need a quorum, and that's extremely important so we can pass this.
Is that why you're doing it Thursday afternoon?
We're doing it Thursday afternoon so that you can have section
for
meetings.
Those that travel on Thursday morning.
People that travel Thursday morning, and so that if it doesn't pass, and I can drink all Thursday night and all Friday morning, and be ready for the section meetings. So that if it doesn't pass, then you still have time with section meetings after the business meeting, or if it does pass, you'll still have time in section meetings after the business meeting to make some other decisions. So instead of doing it on Friday, we'll do it Thursday.
Okay.
Great.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.